Earlier, I was joined by RT correspondent Lindsay France, and I first asked her if it was true that Cornel West was arrested for protesting in Ferguson.
Yeah, that's right. The civil rights leaders and clergy and various interfaith leaders that were arrested yesterday had actually gathered here in town in neighboring St. Louis to give a huge talk about the need for unity on this issue. And the next morning, they decided to band together and march on the police department just behind me. And that's when they were arrested. Now, we spoke with a man named Carl Dix. He's very close with the group of these leaders that were arrested, 42 of them to be exact. And what really piqued his interest were the rather odd questions that were asked when they were booked and taken into the police station. Take a listen.
Did you detect anyone who had criminal intent? Do you know of any future protests? Do you expect any people who have criminal intent to participate in those protests? And it is, like Afia was saying, trying to establish who's running this, who's involved, what are their future plans, and do you know of any crimes that are going to be committed? But it's actually an ominous development and represents fishing for possible future, prosecutions of a more serious nature.
Yeah, certainly concerns there about that line of questioning. Now, demonstrators announced they were taking part in a Moral Monday. That rounded out these 4 days of protests around the St. Louis area. What was Moral Monday about?
Well, Moral Monday originates in North Carolina, and it's a way to effectively demonstrate against government policies, sit-ins, peaceful arrests, etc. And the way it manifested itself here in St. Louis and in Ferguson and in many other neighboring areas started off with the arrests, as I spoke about in the morning. But then there was a sort of a takeover at the City Hall in St. Louis by a group of very young protesters demanding that changes be made within the St. Louis Police Department. And then it went on to banners being unfurled at a Rams game, packed with spectators. These banners said, "Racism is alive here, Black Lives Matter," etc., etc. So a lot of people saw that. 3 different Walmarts were occupied. One we went to, 10 people were arrested in when they went inside and started to demonstrate. Police came in, pulled them out, locked the doors. We spoke with a couple of protesters about their feelings about how policing has changed over the years and what it's essentially evolved into.
I feel as if some of these policing districts had a residency requirement where the police lived in the communities. They would have a much more vested interest in making sure that that community has a good reputation.
A lot of them just becoming police officers for a check. They really don't care about the community. They don't want to be in tune with the community. They don't want to be close with the community. They don't want a relationship with the community. They just want to do a job and collect a check.
And what was very noticeable in talking to people at this protest, it wasn't just about the fact that police have more armor than they've ever had or surveillance measures taken against them. It was about the relationship they have with police and the fact that it doesn't seem to be what it used to be, even a generation ago. And it's just been a very intensive weekend here in the St. Louis area and in Ferguson. It does not at all seem like it's going to slow down anytime soon. And when we arrived at Walmart last night, the people who've been arrested had just been taken away. The doors had been slammed shut and the police had arrived. Here's something we shot for you just to give you a flavor of what it's like to show up at one of those protests. Take a look. The people behind me are the perfect example of how the Ferguson movement is evolving. Now, we're at a local Walmart here in a neighborhood that is near Ferguson, and the people are here to commemorate John Crawford. He's a 22-year-old man. He was gunned down on August 4th in an Ohio Walmart. He was actually holding a pellet gun he had picked up off a shelf in the store when a caller from inside the store called the police and dishonestly reported that he was waving a gun around at people, at shoppers. And when it was synced with the actual security camera video, it showed that he had done none of that. Well, at that situation, the cops showed up, and it was found that they immediately shot him. So what people here are talking about are how they Day, and Mike Brown, the young man, the unarmed man, Ferguson native who was unarmed, who was killed by a cop on August 9th, how they are all the same person, how they are John Crawford, they are Michael Brown. And their hands are up, don't shoot. That's something they're constantly saying at these protests. Hands up, don't shoot. Hands up, don't shoot. We are Mike Brown. Now, inside, witnesses say at least 10 people were arrested when they stormed Walmart, walking through with their signs, and they plan to stay out here as long as they can. You can see over here the lines of police that are keeping the protesters away. Right here, some of them have got their shields on, most of them don't, but we've got police cars all along here in the parking lots, and of course we're going to be here the rest of the night to see how this evolves. This is the second Walmart tonight in the Ferguson area that has been occupied by these protesters, and of course they all show up responding to these texts that organizers send out to their followers. So they send a text, say, hey, we're going to be at this location, and that's where the people come in. And as we're standing here, we can see more and more people coming into the parking lot. So this place is going to be filling with more and more people tonight. Hopefully it'll be peaceful, but nonetheless, the cops are on guard. Near Ferguson, Lindsay France, RT.